Hey everybody, this week's guest is Ryan Phillips. Ryan is an amazing guy. Met him through a mutual friend, Tim Lodgen. He was a guest of ours a few weeks ago. Ryan's just an incredible guy. We booked him on short notice. We had a cancellation or a rescheduling, not a cancellation. Something came up and Ryan was quick to serve. He answered the call right away. Within 24 hours, we had him on the show. And we just had a really, really good conversation. Ryan likes to focus on the solution and not the problem. It's all about getting to the core of the problem, and then how do we move forward? What do we do moving forward? How do we, learn from the past without dwelling in it? And it was a really good conversation. Our ideologies and philosophies and thoughts about things are very similar. Backgrounds are very similar. And our drive to serve is very similar. So without further ado, let's get to the show. Click that like button, click that subscribe button, follow us on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever. Follow us on YouTube if you're watching this. If you really like us, go to Patreon, support our page. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Rex.
And I'm Reina.
And today's guest is Ryan Phillips. Ryan's an ex-professional hockey player, ex-con, absolute hero in the child trafficking and awareness in Cambodia. We saw that, man. That's awesome what you were doing out there, riding your bike across the country over there. Watch some of your stuff about the ride you did across Canada. You're doing a lot of big things, man. So why don't you tell the folks who you are?
I am Ryan Phillips, and I'm from Vancouver, BC, Canada. And I guess I'm kind of a global guy, to be honest with you. Traveled to over 70 countries in my life. And my major lived experience, so to speak, is not just, obviously in Canada, but it's been abroad. And, met so many people along the journey so far. And, I'm just really grateful to be here this morning and, share my experience, strength and hope, and whatever else comes up. We're all human. We all go through stuff. And so whatever I can do to help and shed some enlightenment on anything mental health, physical health, spiritual well-being, fire away, and I'll give you my best.
Awesome. That's all we ask.
We're thrilled to have you.
Yeah, honored to have you, brother.
Thank you.
We watched your National Geographic special. I guess my first question is, how's your relationship with your daughter?
It's funny you asked. My daughter and I, we talk probably 7 to 10 times a day, and that's doing it injustice. Maybe a dozen times a day. She's just over a year sober after, a 4-year stint of major methamphetamine use. And, she's a new mother. So, there was a time, she, suicidal, 4 attempts on her life, over 20 stints in and out of the psych ward. So it's been quite the journey with my daughter. That all started with a concussion back when she was she was 16 at the time. She was playing soccer. She took a tremendous blow to the head, and she was never the same after that. Her perception, her cognitive abilities, ADD kicked in. So she was, experiencing a lot of, bipolar, schizophrenic symptoms and whatnot. And, sometimes, the thing is that, you get injured and people don't actually treat the actual injury. With my case as well. I've sustained over 50 plus concussions in and out of hockey, other sports and whatnot. And, I was labeled bipolar, back, I would say it was probably 5 or 6 years ago. And after I crossed Canada to raise awareness for mental health, addiction, anything mental health, trauma, go down the list.
Absolutely.
I was introduced to one of the top neurologists in Canada, and after brain specs, brain scans and whatnot, told that I was not bipolar, and it was the result of just major head trauma from the worst one was getting knocked out, sucker punched outside a bar when I was 22. I was knocked out before I hit my head on the curb, and my cerebellum just got rocked, and woke up in the back of a paramedics ambulance there, and knocked out for 15 minutes is not a nice thing. And Mr. Extreme here, less than an hour later, they wanted to keep me in the hospital. I had probably 2 drinks in my hand and a straw in my nose. So not the best of cures when you go through something like that. But, so many mental health disorders, issues and whatnot are misdiagnosed these days.
Absolutely.
And, even with trauma, I believe, when we get onto the topic of trauma, we're really, especially childhood trauma, so much of our subconscious conditioning, comes into our vortex, so to speak, by the age of 7 or 8 years old. We've taken on habitual paradigms from our parents and whatnot. And, obviously the subconscious mind is, 10,000 plus times more powerful than the conscious mind. So when we're operating from the subconscious level and bringing that into the conscious mind, it's so powerfully focused into that present moment that we're reliving a lot of those traumatic events, whether it be from childhood or say, for myself, as you watch the National Geographic episode, a lot of those traumas took place, my first year away from home in hockey, a lot of the rookie hazing, the hockey culture that led into substance abuse, just trying to fit in. And so, bodily trauma, mental trauma, you name it, everything cellular and everything's recorded in the subconscious. So, we have to be very careful and, understand, we're in a new age of enlightenment with the brain as well on, figuring out how the brain actually functions. And so, when we get onto the topic of, say, homeostasis, which, is the right brain and the left brain working together in unison, that's where we ultimately want to be, not on that fight or flight, which I'm on quite a bit because the head getting rocked so much. But, I do my best, I've been sober coming up on 6 years now, 17 years in recovery, had a few slips along the way, but, I don't beat myself up over it. I'm a huge proponent on quality, not quantity. I don't announce my dates and all that kind of stuff, which I've, utmost respect for all the people that do, because there are milestones and whatnot.
Yeah.
But, I really try to live my life in the present moment, as that's all we have and all the power is in the now. So, being able to forgive yourself is a very tough one for, a lot of the shame and the guilt that we've taken on along our physical trail. And, it's we got to be gentle on each other, especially these days, with what's going on with, a lot of people are facing their shadows with this whole pandemic that's gone on. We're living in a lot of, the vibration of fear is rippling over the masses with a lot of uncertainty with the wars, the vaccines and whatnot, the vax sports, the disconnect, so to speak. So, I'm just, really grateful to be, sitting here today and talking to a couple of wonderful people. I look at these as almost like meetings. It's basically like therapy. So, and whatever I can give back in any, tidbits of information that'll help other people, that's really what I stand for. I've dedicated my life to, world service, and, hence the bicycle rides across all these countries. I really realize how much awareness can come through specialized action with purpose, and, not doing it to be famous, just doing it really as a conduit or a vessel to a higher power, which I call God, source energy, whatever you want to call it. And, that's, it's been a pivotal point in my life. It's now, not just National Geographic, they got a sliver of my story. But now, we have a television show that's coming out. It won't be coming out for about probably 5 or 6 months, but we begin shooting in May. And the name of the show will be called True Redemption, Flying High. And, the whole focus on that is, people, using their stories, learning from adversity on the addiction side, mental health side, you name it, and really, really being able to expand that out into humanity globally. And so the intentions with the show is, having, billions of people watching it and, seeing their adversities being turned into triumph, or, just being able to inspire others. And that's really all it comes down to is, just, paying it forward in all aspects.
Absolutely. Man, you're everything you're saying is like right up my alley, man. That's like the whole, like, it's, I just got into it yesterday. Everybody wants to treat addiction like a mental illness. Addiction is not a mental illness. Addiction is a side effect of a traumatic event or a series of traumatic. Doesn't matter whether it's physical, sexual, emotional, psychological, spiritual. Like, we have a friend who experienced a Kundalini rising that just messed his brain up, and like he's never really recovered. It caused all kinds of ADHD, addiction, some personality,
bipolar.
And I'm listening to you talk, man, and I keep telling her, because I have, that I know of, at least 11 major concussions. Major, where like I'm like sitting there like talking to my best friend about how I'm going on a hot date with my mom tonight. I can't wait because my brain's not working. And then I start slurring, and like I got sucker punched in 8th grade, and because some dude had said that I was talking crap about this mixed couple. Like, dude I played football with my whole life was a black guy, and he's dating this white girl, and this other kid said I was talking smack about it. I'm sitting on my BMX, and I hear footsteps behind me, and as I turn into this physical specimen's punch, and like I woke up in the hospital the next day. You know what I mean? Like, so I know that I have had traumatic brain injury. I was in a motorcycle accident where I broke 27 bones, was in a coma for 73 days, was in traction for 8.5 weeks, and had to relearn how to walk. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm with you, dude. But for 27 years, I was beaten and molested as a kid, 6 to 12. I was raped when I was 13 by 2 men. I shot dope at that for 27 years.
Yeah.
In 2013, I took my own life with an intentional overdose because I was just tired, man. I couldn't stop. I had been 15 years in and out of prison. I got clean for 5 years, but then relapsed when things got really bad. You know what I mean? And I contemplated, I thought about it. I did it all. Like, it was like a ceremony to me. And I took my own life, and some friends found me, revived me. And I felt like a pretty big failure, but I knew I didn't ever want to do dope again. And I knew this is what when I look at those first 5 years in recovery, I'm like, okay, I didn't fuck up. I just learned how to not do recovery. I learned what's not going to work for me. So I learned that hardcore AA, NA, step work, that's all great and it has its purpose, but it wasn't what I needed. I needed to get to the root causes of why I couldn't stop doing dope. What was so bad about me that I couldn't sit with myself? So I was on the run for probation for pawning some stolen stuff, and I turned myself in where I knew I couldn't get any dope. Boulder County Jail. There ain't no dope there. it's like a really nice country club county jail. But they have mental health professionals that care. They have a jail-based behavioral services, which is dual diagnosis for mental health and addiction. And I really started looking and sitting and doing that shadow work. Because like you said, like when that traumatic event happens, whatever it is, our mind replays it over and over and over again. Because like Dr. Joe talks about, he says it's a snapshot. It's an emotional snapshot of when the emotion is at its highest. It's bam. We take this mental snapshot, and that's what we relive over and over.
Are we talking about Joe Dispenza?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I met him a few years back. Wonderful gentleman. And, I listen to a lot of his meditations. Haven't been lately. I've been more, I'm a huge Alan Watts guy, and I don't know, I
Nice.
really relate to you know, a lot of his you know, old talks or whatever. I think a lot of those talks were meant to be here today. So
Yes.
Yeah.
you know, going down the, you know, you can go down the spiritual wormhole real quick and kind of lose yourself pretty fast too. So I'm pretty I try to be aware of who I listen to, my environment. I mean, everything comes down a lot to our environmental influences as well. And, you know, it's even the thing, you know, I did, you know, I was doing 3 AA meetings a day for years, and then, you know, 2 and chair and in and out of NA rooms. It's like, you know, everybody does their recovery different because everybody has different lived experiences. That's the thing.
Yep.
And, you know, through this whole, you know, pandemic, I hate that word, for crying out loud. Pandemic and C word are 2 swear words for me, for crying out loud. But, you know, it's, you know, a lot of my recovery has really been, you know, internally based, spending a lot of time just on my own, with, and, you know, just going inwards and, you know, feeling that pain. And, you know, it's like that old saying goes, you gotta feel it to heal it. And, you know, sometimes when you think you're at your worst, that you're actually really healing and opening up that container. You know, I do a lot of psychotherapy as well. You know, I'm not afraid to admit it. I mean, look, I'm a big boy. I played hockey, looked at it as, you know, tough guy image, done this, done that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What you see on the surface is always usually completely, totally different on what's going on internally. And it's, you know, even with this television series that's coming up, I mean, really, like it's all about giving back. It's all about sharing experiences with other people and really inspiring other people to take action. And so we can just, it's just all about just paying it forward. At the end of the day, you know, what do we take away? We don't take away our house and money and any of that stuff. I mean, those are obviously, you know, necessities as we, you know, live here and coexist on this planet. But, you know, feeling good really equals our point of attraction as well. So, you know, I think that, you know, we radiate that which we are. And when it comes down to it, it's just like, you know, you just got to really be appreciative and live in gratitude in every moment, and really, you know, especially the healing journey. I mean, the healing journey isn't for the faint of heart. It's, I mean, there's been times really you think you're losing your goddamn mind, but, you know, getting into that quantum field, so to speak, like Joe says, you know, where everything really takes place more or less in the 5D than the 3D, you know, this is all really one big illusion of vibration. So, you know, it's funny because we always get what we ask for, whether or not it's in audible words, whatever, if we're sending it out in vibratory energy with our own physical apparatus. So, you know,
why I tell,
what's that?
I was gonna say, that's why I tell the people that I work with, whether it's sponsees or clients or whatever, that it all begins with your thinking. Like if 100%. You're like, I was just listening to this guy, little TikTok thing that came up on Instagram the other day. I think it was on Gary V TV, but it was this one dude. It was this, it's the Indian guy from Shark Tank. And this guy comes up, like, this guy comes up to me and he's like, hey, man, I need some advice. I just got out of this really terrible relationship with this bad girl, and I sold all my stuff, and now I'm starting from nothing. And dude's like, hold on, man, hold on. He's like, that's your problem right there. He's like, if you really are done with that stuff, then don't ever say that shit again. Don't ever tell anybody that ever again. He's like, you have to come from a place of, all right, so I just spent 4 years getting educated on what I don't want in a relationship. I've liquidated all of my assets, so now that I have base and I have a foundation to start from. You know what I'm saying? And like, that's where I'm at. You know, like, it all had to begin with my personal narrative. How do I talk to myself? So when I did that shadow work, and like you said, like how the brain replays it over and over again, I feel like every time we replay it, it's like being a little kid who gets tucked in at night, right? And your mom turns the night light on and then the big light's on. But when she turns the big light off and closes the door, you look over at that closet. You're like, is that a jacket hanging there? Wait, did that move? Hold on. And you lay there and you will stare at that closet, at that, whatever it is, because by 15 minutes in, it's a monster. It's a monster waiting for you to close your eyes so it can come do something to you. And the kid will sit there and let it build and build and build until they either finally have the courage to get up and turn on the light, or call for their parents. To me, that's how my trauma was. Every time I told my story or part of my story about something that happened to me, I made it more fantastic. I made it more scary. I gave it more power.
Yeah.
And when I finally sat with it, like I envisioned myself literally sitting with my light and my shadow around a fire. We had a conversation over a year until I was the one who was in control of that conversation. You know what I mean? And it all begins with how you talk to yourself. You know what I mean? Like now, like I have sciatica, but I do stretching and stuff in the morning. So I'm trying to work on it. And like now I'm not like, oh, it hurts. I'm like, I'm actively healing. If you're not hurting, you're not healing. Change hurts. Growth hurts. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So if you ain't hurting, you ain't growing.
100%.
You know, yeah. And man, the whole mental health thing, people get so, it's such a racket. I had a friend who posted something about, she's like, for those who don't know, drug addiction is in the DSM-5, and like started listing all this stuff that they list in the DSM. And I'm like, man, as a 27-year addict who has 15 years in recovery, 8.5 active, I'm a certified drug counselor, blah, 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 blah. I have all these things. I'm like, I think that's bullshit. I'm like, addiction. Now, there are mental health issues that can lead to addiction. I'm not discounting that. But to say that addiction as a whole, to say that somebody who was in high school partying, taking painkillers, and then the painkillers stopped working and they realized, oh, I'm sick. I have an opiate addiction. And they start smoking heroin, and then they're shooting heroin. And next thing you know, they're dead from fentanyl. It wasn't because they had a mental health. It's because they fucking reached a place where they fucking realized that the drug was the most important thing in their life and they couldn't stop. So you just start feeling more and more and more like shit about yourself. And you start digging the hole deeper and deeper and deeper. You know what I'm saying? And like, so my healing journey, and it sounds like your healing journey, is very big on how you talk to yourself and how you present yourself. You know, like I think it's big how, you know, I want to put out the energy of this is who I am because that's what I want back. You know what I'm saying? And it's working. Like my life, the things that I want for myself are blowing up.
I mean, at the end of the day, I believe we come from pure positive energy. We come into this world as pure love, and that's what we are. But we've been suppressed with being, you know, subconsciously conditioned. And, you know, every single sense impression is recorded into the subconscious faculties. So, you know, when you think about it, you know, self-talk is huge. That's why, you know, journaling or whatever is, you know, whatever works for you is so important. You know, positive affirmations, whatever you want to deem as positive, you know, because, you know, as we repetition, we create, you know, new neural pathways, which we create, you know, new habits that are, you know, beneficial to our overall well-being rather than detrimental. So, you know, like, I mean, even when, you know, this whole thing started a couple of years back with, you know, the lockdowns and you know, the isolation, I suck at my isolation. I'm an isolator. I'm already, you know, I'm out there, but at the same time, I still like to have I'm addicted to isolation in a way. And so like, it hasn't been a super smooth ride. I'd be lying if I said it was. So it's, you know, like, you know, I have a very close inner circle of friends that I work with, and, you know, we have a very great trust bond. But at the end of the day, it's like, you know, you just got to do what feels good for you in the present moment, because life is, you know, it's for the living. You know, we want to pack as much life experience of goodness, you know, before we leave and exit, you know, planet Earth and go on to the next phase. So, and I don't plan on doing that anytime soon, because I feel like I've been given so many chances, and, you know, like I said, I've dedicated my life to world service, serving others. And, you know, it's like, you know, yesterday I had a wonderful conversation with a gentleman in the entertainment industry. You know, I never thought I'd be like in the entertainment industry doing a television show, and then now multiple shows coming down the pipes as well. You know, but it's a great way of getting your message out, not just yours, but the message of love, the message of inspiration, all those kinds of things. And,
message.
you
The
know,
message.
I don't think I would have had those opportunities if I didn't put myself in positions like riding across Cambodia to help with the eradication of human trafficking and child sex slavery. And what I saw with that is completely different how I look at it now. That was, 2012, 10 years ago. But when I look at it, I see the mental health issues and the trauma, and I actually relive a lot of those moments. I wasn't as aware at that time. My conscious awareness is, spiritually has grown a lot since, in the last decade. And, I was having fun doing it. I was crying my eyes out doing it too, like many of the times. But, now when I look back on it, I'm like, holy shit, that was traumatic. That affected my mental health, in many ways, thinking about these, young, innocent kids being, mistreated and sexually abused and whatnot. And then it brought me back to my own issues with, being 14 years old, being abused by a hockey coach, grabbed by the throat in, my junior hockey days before turning professional. It's just like there's a laundry list of trauma that I've had to revisit and tackle. That's like, it's been very, very uncomfortable. But at the same time, in that uncomfortability is where you find your serenity, so to speak. And you can, you have to make peace with it. And if you don't make peace with it, then you just go down further and further, and things start to perpetuate, and we become sick.
Yeah. So can I ask you specifically about, I kind of want to circle back to you in the special, we kind of saw how your relationship with your daughter became strained because of your separation and your life choices. And we've seen, that you and her have, come back together. So what changed in you? Like what shift did you make to try to start making reparations for that relationship, to start repairing and healing that, and start creating something new with her?
Well, I was in, after hockey didn't work out due to injuries, adversities, and substance abuse. The BC Bud Boom was just huge. My province of British Columbia is the marijuana hub of basically North America. Now you guys have taken over, bigger country, the laws are different. And, but, back in the day, it was, the demand in the USA was just absolutely incredible. And, there wasn't a lot of people in Canada that had the connections that I did. They kind of fell in my lap basically because of hockey. I was meeting all these connections down there. And they're like, can you get like that BC Hydro Bud and whatnot? And, I got blinded by, young, dumb, and or actually young and smart, but just not using those smarts maybe the right way. And, 1 pound turned into, 100, and turned into 500, turned into whatever. And the next thing you know, you're the king of weed, right? But, what that was just taking on a false identity of something that I wasn't. I was never Ryan, the hockey player. I was never Ryan, the drug dealer. I'm not my name. I'm not my buddy. I'm here to, to serve, and however that shows up on a daily basis, I just ask God, how can I be of service today to humanity? And then I just, trust the universe to unfold as is. And, there's always, it's never a smooth ride, but, we always usually get what we ask for. So with the whole daughter thing, I hit a pinnacle where there was a gang war going on in 2008. Canada's I know we're a small country, but they don't really highlight how dangerous it is here with the organized crime aspect of things. And I'd gotten too big, right at the top of the food chain, threats on my life. And it was just, I was miserable. I had all the money in the world, everything on the surface that looked like, oh, this guy's living a great life. And I just knew that I was destined to do something different. I don't want to say that there's because there's good people in organized crime. There's wonderful people in prison, as and it was just something that I did, as almost like a backlash, because I was so hurt that my dominating dream, hockey, fell to the wayside. I lost that. And, I hit it. I remember there was this big party at my house. I had mirrored ceilings. I remember looking up at that ceiling, 400 people at my house the night before, all using and abusing and all aspects. And I woke up and I was just like, I am done. I can't do this anymore. But I was in deep. I was in very deep with like the gang activity as well. Not a violent man, but obviously it was surrounded around me. And I was scared. And I was like, it's time for me to make a change. So the first step was I started going to AA. And, that opened my eyes to just a different life. A different life that I knew that I deserved, that I never had the opportunity to really, it's everything was divine timing, at the end of the day, divinely guided, so to speak. And, a couple of years in AA really ignited, a lot of passion for me to make a difference in the world. And it started with my daughter, who I was like, I wasn't allowed in the US. I was never ever going to be allowed in the United States, America again. And, with that being said, I wrote down on a card, I'm so happy and I'm so grateful for being allowed back in the States again. Autosuggestion, the medium for influencing the subconscious mind. So I would just read that card over and over again. I'm so happy. I'm so grateful. And I would visualize and see myself on the other side of the border, seeing my daughter again, and act as though it will, and let the unseen become seen, picturing me hugging her and whatnot. And it happened all through like ways that I never thought were even attainable. So, I find myself over in Cambodia doing a bike ride. Next day after the bike ride, I get a letter from the Department of Homeland Security saying that I got a pardon, humanitarian pardon of all things, back to the States. And, now I'm a free man. I can go back and forth, and, just a complete blessing. And, sometimes I have to pinch myself. The greatest forces are intangible for sure. Thought power is real.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, I just wanted to say that was one of for me, the most touching parts of your story, because as you know, I'm sure, like so many people in addiction and trauma, in emotional difficulty, end up in compromised relationships, especially with the people they love the most, their children, or sometimes partners, sometimes parents, so I just think that's a really important part of your story for people to hear is, that's what I think most people really want, is those reparation of the most important relationship. So yeah, thank you for touching on that again.
Thank you. Yeah, and feel free. I mean, you got the private link there with the password, then. So yeah, feel free to share it away. I have absolutely no problem with that. So,
Awesome.
like I said, if I can just touch one life and make a difference, we're doing good just for today, and that's all we got. We got just today, and tomorrow's not promised, but by the grace of God, hopefully we'll wake up and be able to do it all over again, right? So. Life is definitely not linear. It takes its bumps and bruises and twists and turns and curveballs, that's for sure. So I think it's about really, at the end of the day, embracing your adversity and turning that adversity into, it's like that Napoleon Hill quote, every adversity carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. So where we find that benefit is also where it's where the seed is planted. Once you start planting those seeds, the gifts start to unfold. And a lot of that, comes down to a lot of the AA spiritual principles is in the promises, really, really actually understanding what the sunlight of the spirit really means is that you are the light, you are the spirit, and being able to ignite that light and that spirit into the universe is, when you get to that tipping point, so to speak, you realize that we are so unlimited, the infinite possibilities that we have as these, human beings, that are, constructed of energy, and using those building blocks to actually, create anything that we actually conceive in our minds. So I'm a firm believer that if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. Or, it's just like, whatever we put out there, we always get back. So I'm very aware and cognizant of how I think, because I know that how I think and how I feel is going to be dictating my next present moment. So, energetically, and up there, down here, and everywhere, omnipotent. So
what is it? Thoughts create feelings, feelings create actions, actions create habits, habits create lifestyles.
Character.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
character. Yeah,
Yeah.
character. That's what it is. Habits create character.
Yeah.
I also like that one. God saves his greatest struggles for his greatest profits.
Oh God. Yeah, I know. I think he did a good one when he picked me. He's put me through the goddamn ringer. And you and I
Right.
should probably hang out because we probably have a lot more in common than than we actually. If we're having this conversation, we attracted this too. So, you know, yeah, it would be interesting when I'm down there in Colorado. We'll definitely have to get together for sure. I look forward to those days.
We're about have you ever been to the San Luis Valley?
I have.
The sand dunes. So
Yeah.
we're about 7 miles south of Fort Garland and about 3 miles north of San Luis, and then about 5 miles east up in the hills. We just bought 18.8 acres. Well,
Awesome.
so our giving back isn't really globally, at least not yet. We have the land with the intention of turning it into a local permaculture and organic farm with a learning center to help local at-risk teens and young adults transitioning out of foster care to learn how to grow food for themselves and how to be self-sustainable in a naturally and permanently sustainable way.
And traditionally, like to uphold their traditional, there's a lot of with the Mexican and Native peoples that were
Oh, I love it.
settled
Everything.
that
You
area.
guys are totally in my wheelhouse. I
Yeah.
actually lived on a native reserve for a while. My first girlfriend, she was she was Aboriginal. I have such a close relationship. I grew up in the majestic Capilano River. I mean, I'm a nature boy at heart, up in the mountains here in BC. So, fishing and growing up with, that community, I'm very, very closely attuned with those people. I do the sweat lodges and whatnot. And it's funny. I'm like, I'm the only, I don't believe in, any race, color, all that stuff. They do the same heart surgery on a black guy as they do on a white guy, a Chinese guy, a blue guy, and a pink guy, whatever. And, but I really love, how they, their spiritual principles of connecting to nature. And, so it's, life's a trip. So you got to enjoy the trip while you're on it. And I think it's better to enjoy it sober. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
I had enough other trips in my life. Holy Christ. And ones I thought I'd never make it out of. So.
Well, we're glad you made it back.
I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please pass along our congratulations to your daughter as well.
Thank you. Well, for sure.
To have a year clean off of meth is a huge miracle, man.
Yeah,
it's like,
it is.
They say it's like
we thought we were going to lose her for a while. There was times, 4 suicide attempts before the age of 19. Very hard on a father, on family, on everybody that was close to her. It was absolutely heartbreaking. But she gets up with a smile on her face every day, and she just she does the best she can. She's got such a big heart. And, I do my best to support her in any way I can. She's in the States right now. I'm in Canada. So I'm not actually able to see her at this moment, but this summer I'll be seeing her. We got a few things planned, and, she's going to be probably a big part of this TV show we're doing as well. And, it's all about redemption at the end of the day, and, redeeming yourself and feeling good about it, and then just being able to really give that back. And, I think if you do that on a daily basis, there's so much peace that's found in those moments. And, you can lay your head down at the end of the night and just feel pretty good about yourself, knowing that you did something outside of yourself that made somebody feel good. And, you always got to put yourself first as far as your well-being and whatnot, because if you're no good to yourself, then you're no good to anybody else. If you can't be good for yourself, you can't be good for anybody else. So I can mix those words up. A little early in the morning here for me. I didn't sleep very well last night, so I'm trying to put it all together. But, Yeah.
You know,
Go ahead.
it's a rigged game right now too with drugs. Like I'm getting ready to start going into schools and doing drug awareness. And the drugs that kids are doing today aren't the same drugs that we were doing a few years ago.
No.
Like
No.
everything that they can put fentanyl in has fentanyl. They're making the cartels and the dealers here, especially in the States, are making so many fake prescription drugs that are just sugar with a little bit of fentanyl in it. Here in Colorado, actually, Boulder County, that's the county next to us, they are decided they're going to start cracking down. If you sell somebody a fake pill, then you are, and they die, it's now drug-induced homicide or drug-induced manslaughter. And like there's a big push. I'm part of a big Twitter push to quit calling it accidental overdose, because it's not accidental overdose. These same people are doing the same drugs that they were doing before with the expectation that they're doing the drugs they're getting, but they're not. You know, like here in the States, between April of 2020 and 21, we reached 100,024 overdoses. And they say that like 90% of them are fentanyl.
Yep. Well, we're the biggest here in Vancouver. The Port of Vancouver here is the biggest fentanyl hub in North America. So it all comes in from China. We get there's the big pier here or whatever, and they drop it all out. I mean, it's horrible. So the hub is actually here in BC, and then actually goes over into the US.
Right.
So,
and it comes to Colorado through Pueblo and Denver through our Commerce City, through our rail yards. Colorado is the hub for America.
Well, and then the problem is that these kids nowadays they can obtain all these drugs online. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, 13, 14, 15 years old, you can get a gun online now on Instagram. You can get, it just baffles me. You know, you can buy meth off these online. All this.
And the thing about the meth though, is it's not meth anymore.
No, it's not.
When I was partying hard in the 90s, doing crank, like prope dope, P2P dope, the old peanut butter, or like the lemon drop, the stuff the bikers used to make. Yeah. And but then every once in a while, some crystal meth would come across. We called it glass. In Australia, they call it ice. Yeah.
Called it glass.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was actually real.
Right. But sometime around like 2009, Charlie Sheen got really big into the bath salts. Mm-hmm. And the Chinese government started flooding the US with all of these chemicals in the guise of like screen printing cleaner, bath salts, all these other things. And they would sell them in head shops here. I don't know if they did that in Canada. They'd sell them in head shops. And like spice is the same thing. Spice is a bunch of chemicals sprayed on some herbs. You have no idea what you're doing. That's why people were freaking out. And here, every like 6 months, the DEA will be like, and Congress will be like, oh, this molecule's illegal now. Within a month, we're being flooded with all new meth that's different molecules. It's these research chemicals that these Chinese laboratories are creating to flood, and just pumping out. And like fentanyl, the cartels figured out that instead of trying to smuggle in 2 shipping containers full of raw opium and trying to get it past customs, you just buy the fentanyl in China, process it into something else, make it dish detergent, ship 20 shipping containers over, and nobody looks at it twice.
Nope.
Yeah, dude, Colorado busted more drugs per pound last year than any other state in the union.
Unbelievable. Well, I don't know if you're familiar with the downtown east side here in Vancouver. It's the highly condensed area for, heroin, intravenous drug users, and whatnot.
Yeah.
If you look up the downtown east side in Vancouver, it's just, it crushes me. I used to go down there on a very regular basis and, help with, feeding the homeless and whatnot. Never wanted a pat on the back for it. I wouldn't tell anybody. But I actually had to stop going down there because it's just, so many of those people have holes in their aura, and they're just, they're so far gone that the percentage of those people even having that opportunity, they've just gone down so far. And I mean, you can only do so much. I mean, number one, you gotta want it. You have to want to change your life, and
That's
it's, there's some sort of spiritual experience that's going to ignite that. And go ahead.
And I was going to say, there's for every 10,000 people who are out there trying to help the people on the street get clean or trying to in recovery, there's like 5 or 10 in prevention, talking to kids. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know about Canada, but right now in the United States, drug overdose is the number one killer of adults between 18 and 45.
Yeah. Well, you look at the Foo Fighters drummer last night that passed away.
What's that?
The Foo Fighters drummer passed away yesterday due to a drug overdose, they say. So, it doesn't take, it takes names and it takes prisoners. It takes everybody. Yes. You have to know.
My thing is these kids aren't turning 18 all of a sudden and being like, oh, there's drugs. Let's try them. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like there's drugs in the school. Like in middle school. And like, I know, because I was shooting heroin in junior high.
Yeah.
I know it. And that was in the 80s. If I was doing that in the 80s, there's no way it's not happening now.
Well, there is no heroin. There's not heroin here.
No.
It's all fentanyl. It's there. Yeah. Everyone who's using intravenous drug use that think they're doing heroin are doing fentanyl. That's the way it is. And people are dropping like flies. That's the way it is. Overdoses are going left and right. I live in a very nice area in North Vancouver, Canada here. And all I hear all night these days is sirens going back and forth. And so many people are suppressed because of what's been going down. They're not on the addiction aspect and the whole trauma thing that all plays into the mental health soup, so to speak, of all this stuff. You want to say mental health. I believe that, trauma, is a mental illness. It really is. It's like, unless you battle it, kick that illness out, but it ignites those, so-called illnesses, it's because, and the abuse that we put on our bodies because of it. But, we could talk all day long about it, but I'm a solution-based guy. Yeah. And, like, I always like to think about, like, what can we do to, overcome these tragedies? Because, it doesn't matter. Like, look how many celebrities have gone out this past year, due to drug addiction and whatnot. It doesn't matter who you are. We all put our pants on the same way at the end of the day. It doesn't matter how many Instagram followers you have or Twitter or social media or whatnot. At the end of the day, we're dealing with real life. So, if you have that opportunity just to help someone a little bit to get on the path of like sobriety and, get and help them with their trauma, whether it's them going through a somatic experience, psychotherapy, EDMR, whatever it is, there's all kinds of different modalities that you can turn to. But it's really, really getting down to the core issues of what and why we're having these destructive behavioral patterns in the first place that's causing our life to go to SHIT, so it's like, it really, at the end of the day, you own your life. You own your life. Your life is up to you. But when the addiction becomes more powerful than the willingness to actually be motivated to be well, that's when, you run into trouble, and you really need to ask for help. And, people, it's the sad thing is that the availabilities and the accessibilities right now with the treatment centers and whatnot are tough. There's long lineups to get even into these treatment centers. So many people aren't making it there. They're dying before they want help, but they can't get to the help before they succumb to death or, whatever, something even, there needs to be more, places where we can go. There needs to be more open dialogue. There needs to be more people out there on the front lines. And that's a lot, it's when we get into like solutions,
I'm with you. I'm all, that's why I'm like, man, I have a buddy of mine who, since right before I published my book and started, doing my whole social media thing and trying to build a brand, he was there. He's supporting. He goes into high schools and middle schools and stuff in Utah. And he's been telling me for months, he's like, bro, he's like, you got to do this. Kids need to hear your story, because everybody tells kids, oh, if you do drugs, you're going to die. If you do drugs, you're going to die. Well, what happens if you don't die?
And they're not afraid of that. They're
Yeah.
teenagers. There's no concept.
Yeah, there's no
Because
concept.
they're indestructible, right? So
Right.
Yeah,
But-
you did, I did, you know.
So I want to show them the reality of what happens when you don't die. What happens when the partying and just having a good time turns into a need, which turns into maintenance, which becomes dependency. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm not going into the schools. I mean, obviously I don't want the kids to do these drugs, obviously, but I'm not going in to tell them, hey, don't do drugs because you're going to die. I'm going to tell them, hey, you guys are probably going to do drugs, and I wish that you wouldn't, but here are all of the possible outcomes of doing those drugs.
Here's the truth.
Here's the death. Here's what it was like being in prison off and on for 10 years from the age of 22 to 32. You know what I mean? To 30 to actually 44, because I went to prison. My first 4.5 years of sobriety were in jail because of that probation violation. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I've only been out here doing it for 4 years, you know? But I want them to understand that, like, look, these people have been homeless and struggling with addiction, who come from good families, who had good childhoods, who just like to party, and then their partying got out of hand. And then I want to end with, here's where you can go when you're ready for help, because here's the people who've succeeded. Here's the people who've made it. Like, I would love for you to send me a before and after picture if you got one from your younger days.
Yeah.
Like you
I
now.
could actually. I could definitely do that. You want to post that on your page?
Well, I'm doing a video montage of, I have one of all the people we've lost that I start with. And then I have one that I'm putting together of all the people that we haven't lost.
Who've recovered.
I'll send you a picture of me partying. That's, with a big bottle of champagne, thinking I was the king of swing in Cancun back when I was 22, up for 14 days straight with, doing about 30 pills of Molly a night. So, oh my God. Yeah, I was a circus sideshow, for crying out loud. So I still, to this day, I don't know how I'm still alive. You two, sounds like, we definitely, when I get down to, we blanked out. You guys edit this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, when I get down to the US there, I'll have to make a pit stop and see you guys in Colorado, and, maybe we go talk to a school together.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it. I love talking to schools. I mean, I've done the TED Talks. I've spoken in front of, thousands and thousands of people and whatnot, but when I really get my juice is when I speak to the younger kids, because when they can see it in your eyes that you've been through some shit. They can see it. They pick up on it, especially when you don't go there, and you're just open with them and they embrace you. It's just like, I love it. And, it's very fulfilling for me, all these bike rides and awareness and everything like that. Yeah, great. They're fun because you're doing it, and you're also like, you're committing yourself to, being of service. But at the end of the day, it's like when you can be around those kids that haven't had the opportunity to be educated the right way. Not that there's any right or wrong way, but they have to understand that what's in these drugs right now, especially these designer drugs and whatnot, that, one little salt grain can kill them, for crying out loud. So, if there's any kids out there listening, it's like, take it from a couple people, 3 people, so many people of us that, we're at this stage of our evolution and we've made it this far, but we're damn lucky, there's no, by the grace of God, so.
Grace. Yeah.
So,
all right, Ryan.
Pleasure, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, man. Especially on short notice. It was so good having you.
That's all good. Yeah, and give me a shout anytime if you want to shoot the shit, have a talk. It's always nice to have connections around the world, right? So
absolutely. Yes, for sure. Well, brother, you have a blessed day. Give your daughter our love and congratulations.
Absolutely.
And your grandbaby.
Yep, and your grandbaby.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that as well.
Mhm.
Namaste.
Namaste for today.
Yeah.
All right. Taking care, guys.
Bye.
See ya.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If there's anything we talked about in this show that was triggering to you or brought up old feelings, please feel free to reach out to us at our website, nolovepodcast.com, or you can email us directly at sharethelove@nolovepodcast.com. You can check us out on Facebook, No Love the Memoir Continues, Instagram, No Love the Memoir Continues, or you can follow any of the links in the show notes to reach out to the organization that may or may not suit you best. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Follow us on Patreon. Thank you very much. Namaste.